Imagine you are like 6 miles underwater,
Yeah.
standing at the absolute bottom of the ocean.
Right down in the crushing depths of the Challenger Deep.
Exactly. The pressure down there is, I think it's something like 14,500 pounds per square inch.
Yeah, it's an environment that would it would crumple a solid titanium submarine like a discarded soda can.
Right, in a matter of milliseconds.
Yeah.
It is freezing, and it is entirely oppressively pitch black.
Usually, anyway.
Yeah, usually. But as you look out into the abyss, you don't find this barren, lifeless trench. Looming out of the dark, stretching for miles in every direction, you find a glowing, sprawling, three-dimensional metropolis.
It's a visual that just completely shatters human comprehension.
It really does.
When you see the visual data logs of Arle Prime, the impossible scale of it is the first thing that hits you.
Welcome back to the year 3000 AD. We are living through a pretty bleak, terrifying time. Humanity is locked in a high-attrition war for survival against the Abyssal Cephalopoda.
Right, the invading alien species of hyper-intelligent 30-meter-long herbivores that have basically conquered Earth's oceans.
Exactly. Now, we've previously touched on the initial invasion, the Great Descent, and the Human Alliance's resistance up in the mountain redoubts.
Yeah, we covered that pretty extensively.
But today's deep dive has a singular, highly focused mission. We are cracking open Section 12 of the Human Alliance Military Archives. We are mapping out the enemy's capital.
We're really going to deconstruct the architecture, the horrific energy grid, and the rigid social hierarchy of this impregnable underwater megacity.
Because to understand why humanity is losing this war, you have to understand the physical reality of where the enemy lives, right?
Absolutely. Orlia Prime operates under hydrostatic pressures exceeding 1,000 bar.
I want to linger on that number for a second because 1,000 bar sounds, I don't know, kind of abstract.
It does, yeah.
Think about the physical weight of 6 miles of ocean pressing down on every single square inch of surface area from every conceivable angle.
Human engineering just totally fails there.
Right. We can barely send uncrewed drones into the trench without the pressure housing suffering catastrophic micro-buckling.
Exactly.
So looking at Section 12, my immediate question is, how do you begin to build a sprawling city in an environment that actively wants to obliterate matter?
Well, the crucial distinction is that the abyssals do not, build in any way humans would recognize.
Okay.
There are no steel girders, no riveting, no concrete pours. They basically grow their infrastructure.
Wow.
Yeah. The entirety of Arli Prime is a three-dimensional radial spire network. It consists of hundreds of interconnected pylons.
I mean, these are huge, right?
Oh, massive. Some of these spires reach up to 2 kilometers high, anchored directly into the deep-sea basalt of the trench floor.
Man.
And they're constructed from a material the archives refer to as quantum molecular silicon, or QMS.
Right, and the sources mentioned that they aren't importing raw materials down from the surface to do this. They are literally using the trench against us.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
The QMS pylons are essentially biosilicon matrices.
Okay, so how does that work with the trench?
Well, the environment of the Mariana Trench is covered in trillions of tons of microscopic diatom shells and siliceous ooze.
Just ocean debris, basically.
Right. So the architecture of the city secretes a localized enzymatic field that magnetically attracts and bonds this ambient biogenic silica directly into its own structure.
So wait, so when a seismic event happens, and they built this city right on the Pacific Ring of Fire, so earthquakes are constant, right? The city isn't just absorbing the shock.
No, not at all. It's actively pulling microscopic sand and shells out of the water to fuse and self-repair any microfractures on a molecular level.
That is insane. It functions as a single, living, self-healing organism.
Exactly. The environment provides this infinite supply of structural bandages.
It's a self-repairing skyscraper network at the bottom of the world. But, as I was reading through the dimensions of these structures, a massive logistical flaw kind of stood out to me.
Oh, the commute.
Yes. Let's talk about the commute. Because if you have a city made of 2-kilometer-high vertical spires, and your population consists of 30-meter-long creatures with massive mass relying on traditional hydropropulsion to swim up and down all day, seems incredibly inefficient.
Very inefficient.
Right, like even with 12 tentacles, dragging that kind of bulk up a 2-kilometer vertical column requires a huge expenditure of caloric energy.
It would be totally unsustainable if they were just swimming. But the Human Alliance archives detail this locomotive technology called metric gravitronic geometry.
Which sounds very complicated.
It is, but basically the abyssals manipulate localized gravity. Rather than displacing water to move forward, their technology allows them to generate microgravitational stress tensors.
So they are bending gravity around their own bodies.
Exactly. By projecting a gravitational sink in their desired direction of travel and simultaneously expanding the spatial pressure behind them, they essentially fall in whatever direction they choose. So consequently, inside the massive internal chambers of these spires, the concepts of up and down just cease to exist.
It's like living inside an omnidirectional M.C. Escher painting.
Yes, that's a great way to put it.
Imagine those classic sketches with the staircases going in impossible intersecting directions.
Yeah.
Now imagine you're a hyper-intelligent 30-meter octopus.
Right.
You want to go to the ceiling, you shift your localized tensor field, and instantly the ceiling becomes your floor. You maneuver fluidly on a 360-degree axis without ever losing spatial orientation.
It perfectly suits a radial body plan. And, this is a profound strategic revelation because it really highlights how planar human architecture is a fundamental disadvantage.
How so?
Well, humans build in flat planes, right angles, and stacked floors because gravity dictates we must fall downward. We think in 2D grids.
Right.
But a species that controls gravity at room temperature experiences a city as a true, liberated 3D volume.
Which means human strike teams trying to infiltrate these structures would be instantly disoriented. The walls are floors, the ceiling is a drop zone.
It would be a nightmare.
Absolutely. But let's look at the atmosphere inside those structures, because if they are manipulating gravity fields that casually, I have to assume the interior chambers aren't just flooded with ambient seawater. It would interfere with the buoyancy and the tensor fields, right?
Yeah, you'd think so. But the internal chambers are flooded with something far more hostile.
Oh, great.
The city's interior is submerged in a dense, hypersaline fluid medium that's heavily infused with liquid ammonia, maintained at a constant 2 degrees Celsius.
Lakes?
And perhaps most terrifyingly, the interior is pressurized to 1,200 bar.
1,200 bar. Wait, that means the pressure inside their buildings is actually higher than the crushing weight of the ocean outside.
Yes, this specific liquid ammonia atmosphere is a perfect replication of the subterranean oceans of their native homeworld, Planet X.
So it's an environment that would instantaneously dissolve and crush human biology.
Instantly. But to the abyssals, this hyperpressurized toxic soup is, the comforting, necessary cradle they evolved in.
Which brings up the most glaring issue of all. Manipulating localized gravity, maintaining a hyper-pressurized 1,200 bar internal environment, growing 2-kilometer biosilicon spires. The energy requirement for this is off the charts.
They're completely off the charts.
We are talking about power consumption that makes human metropolises look like candlelit villages. How on earth do they power Arlaia Prime?
The energy demands are met by the QMS array, the quantum molecular silicon cold fusion array.
Okay.
Located at the foundational base of the city, sitting directly on the trench floor, are 3 massive reactor chambers. These reactors manipulate the atomic bonds of silicon at room temperature to induce and sustain continuous low-energy nuclear reactions.
Okay, I need to stop and work through the logic here because this is where the source material initially threw me.
Oh, with the blood harvesting.
Yes. We all know about the coastal processing pods. We've all seen the intel on the blood harvests. The abyssals capture millions of humans to extract our blood. But looking at the physics in Section 12, the caloric math just wasn't adding up for me. Human blood is an organic protein lipid solution. It has terrible caloric density. You can't use blood as rocket fuel, and you absolutely cannot use it to power a quantum cold fusion reactor. So how does harvesting human blood actually connect to powering a city?
The Human Alliance Intelligence spent years trying to answer that exact question.
Right.
The breakthrough came when they realized human blood is not being combusted as fuel. It is utilized as a psychochemical stabilizer.
A stabilizer. Okay. How does an organic fluid stabilize a quantum reaction?
Well, when a reactor manipulates the quantum states of matter, specifically silicon bonds, the resulting quantum fluctuations are incredibly volatile.
Right, they'd be unstable.
Very.
Right.
If those subatomic emissions cascade out of control, the reactor destabilizes, leading to a citywide thermal runaway. The entire megacity would vaporize in a millisecond.
If they need a coolant.
Yes. And the abyssals discovered that human blood plasma, specifically the RHNL blood type, which lacks 61 common antigens, acts as a perfect biological blank slate.
Wow, so it's like a molecular sponge.
Think of it as a biological control rod. When refined Rh-null plasma is injected directly into the reactor cores, its unique protein lattice absorbs those erratic quantum emissions without triggering secondary chemical reactions.
It dampens the quantum volatility.
Exactly. Without a constant influx of this specific human blood plasma to act as a coolant, their cold fusion arrays melt down.
That is a chilling realization. They don't just eat us. We are the active chemical component keeping their city from annihilating itself.
Yeah, it's pretty grim.
But let's shift gears to the aesthetics of this place, because this was my favorite aha moment in the deep dive. You're down 6 miles in the aphotic zone. No sunlight has ever reached this depth in the history of the planet. But Arlia Prime is not dark.
No, it glows.
It glows.
The outer hulls of the biosilicon spires are embedded with bioluminescent QMS nodes, emitting a constant high-intensity 470-nanometer blue-green and ultraviolet glow.
And this isn't just because a blue-green underwater city looks intimidating. There is hard oceanographic physics behind that specific wavelength.
There is. In pure, hyperdense seawater, wavelengths like red, yellow, and orange lack the energy to penetrate and are absorbed almost immediately.
Right.
But the 470-nanometer blue-green spectrum possesses the lowest absorption coefficient. It can travel vast distances through the crushing water without scattering.
But the sources reveal this isn't just street lighting. This glow is functional.
Very functional.
They are transmitting encrypted data packets across the city's optical grid using this bioluminescence. Use a 21st century analogy. The entire city is essentially a giant, glowing fiber-optic router.
Because the abyssal brain is comprised of hundreds of billions of decentralized, quantum-dense neurons, they possess visual processing capabilities we can barely fathom.
Unimaginable to us, really.
Yeah. An entity can look at the flashing blue-green facade of a pylon 2 kilometers away and instantaneously download complex spatial geometry, cultural memories, or fleet-wide tactical orders. The architecture itself is constantly pulsing with information.
Every building is a server, and the light is the Wi-Fi. It's brilliant. So now that you, the listener, understand the mechanics of this impossible place, how it's grown from ambient silica, how it's powered by cold fusion and stabilized by human blood, and how it communicates through light, we need to look at how this alien society actually lives inside it.
Right, because the society is rigidly partitioned into 4 vertical zonation tiers. It's a strict reflection of their biological caste system and their industrial needs.
Rather than just listing these tiers, let's follow the actual flow of resources. Let's say one of their 100-foot biomechanical bioships has just finished a harvesting run on the surface. Where does it go?
It descends to Tier 1, the Abyss Crown, located at roughly 6,000 meters depth. This acts as the surface of the city.
Okay.
The Abyss Crown houses massive docking cradles and gravitronic launch locks. This is the only sector where ships can safely transition through the city's pressure fields.
So it's the universe's most heavily defended parking garage and cargo bay.
Basically, yeah.
So the bioship docks, and it unloads its cargo, which, horrifically, is enslaved humans. Where does that cargo go?
The raw materials are immediately moved down into Tier 2, the mesopelagic grid. This is the industrial engine of Arlia Prime, and the intelligence reports from this sector are staggering in their cruelty.
This is where we learn why they don't just use synthetic computers for everything, right?
Right. The Abyssals have realized that cultivating synthetic processors from scratch is highly resource-intensive. Human brains, however, are highly efficient, naturally occurring organic processors that are abundant on the surface.
Oh, man.
So in the mesopelagic grid, human neural components are surgically integrated into biosynthetic circuits.
They're taking pieces of the human nervous system and wiring them into their technology.
Yeah. These hybrid human silicon circuits are then used to automate pylon construction, run maintenance drones, and operate autonomous weapon guidance systems. The entire tier is a vast, automated slaughterhouse of biosilicon engineering.
A literal assembly line of nightmare technology. But someone has to coordinate all this industrial output, which brings us to the command center.
Exactly. The products and the data flow down to Tier 3, the deep ring. Located in the lower spires, this is the primary residential and cognitive hub for the elder caste.
Okay, the leaders.
The oldest, most neurologically advanced entities of their species reside here.
This is where we see those central quantum processing rings mentioned in the logs, right?
Yes. Hundreds of adult entities physically interface with these rings simultaneously. They link their multi-threaded consciousnesses together across the city's biophotonic light grid.
Wow.
They share complex tactical calculations and cultural memory streams in a continuous, silent exchange of blue-green light.
Mhm.
It is a massive biological supercomputer coordinating a planetary invasion.
Empowering this massive neural network and the assembly lines above it requires the engine room.
Which is Tier 4, the nether core. Sitting directly on the basalt of the trench floor, this tier houses the cold fusion arrays. And because it is the heart of the city, it is guarded by automated gravitronic pulse cannons.
Let's talk about those cannons, because they don't fire explosive shells or lasers.
No, conventional ballistics are totally useless at 1,000 bar. If a human alliance stealth submarine attempts to navigate into the trench, these cannons fire localized barotrauma pulses.
Meaning they use the pressure as a weapon?
Exactly. They instantaneously manipulate the pressure field surrounding the submarine, effectively magnifying the hydrostatic pressure to a degree that crushes the vessel with the concentrated weight of the ocean in a fraction of a millisecond.
You know, tracing this path from the abyss crown down to the nether core, it hit me how brilliantly this architecture inverts human defensive logic.
Oh, absolutely.
Think about a human medieval castle. Human siege logic dictates that you place your most important assets, the king, the command structure, the treasury, at the highest possible point. The keep, the high tower. You want the high ground so you can see the enemy coming.
Right.
But for the abyssals, the most valuable assets, the Elder Caste Command in Tier 3 and the nuclear power core in Tier 4, are at the absolute deepest, most inaccessible depths. The quote-unquote top of their city is just a disposable parking garage.
It forces a complete paradigm shift in naval strategy. Because their biology and technology thrive on extreme pressure, depth is their armor.
Yeah.
The further down into the trench you go, the stronger their infrastructure becomes, and the weaker human technology becomes. It fundamentally redefines the concept of a siege when your enemy's command center is protected by the laws of physics themselves.
You literally cannot reach the king.
Yep.
Which brings us back to the grim reality for you, the listener, sitting in a subterranean mountain bunker in the year 3000. Our Lie Prime remains entirely impregnable to conventional human naval forces.
It does.
The bathypelagic axis, the maximum depth limit where human submarines can safely operate before imploding, stops miles above the city.
And understanding the internal mechanics of Lie Prime isn't just an exercise in theoretical world building. It is the crucial intelligence that explains why humanity is currently losing.
Right.
You cannot drop a conventional depth charge or fire a torpedo at a gravity-bending, self-healing city under 1,000 bars of pressure. The weapons are crushed into shrapnel before they even enter the city's airspace, so to speak.
The human alliance is locked in a desperate stalemate because they physically cannot touch the enemy's heart. But the archives in Section 12 do outline a Hail Mary. The human alliance does have a plan.
They do.
And I want to leave you with a dangerous question to mull over as we wrap up today's deep dive. The HA's ultimate counteroffensive is classified as Project Tiamat.
Named after the ancient mythological goddess of the salt sea and chaotic creation.
Project Tiamat aims to bypass the gravitronic cannons and the pressure gradients entirely. The plan is to deploy an ultra-dense, self-replicating enzyme into the trench from high above.
This enzyme has been bioengineered to specifically target and dissolve the biogenic silica and deep-sea basalt matrix that makes up the QMS pylons of Lie Prime.
It is an elegant weapon, in theory. It relies on a simple chemical reaction slowly settling into the trench, effectively melting the foundational infrastructure of the city.
Right, but I mean, think about the physics we just spent this deep dive exploring. Think about the domino effect.
Exactly. Our Lie Prime is a hyper-pressurized megacity. It is actively holding back 1,200 bars of internal pressure. Its internal atmosphere is composed of millions of gallons of toxic liquid ammonia.
Yeah.
And most importantly, it is powered by massive quantum cold fusion reactors that require constant, delicate stabilization via human blood to prevent thermal runaway.
The kinetic implications are staggering. If the TMAT enzyme successfully dissolves the structural containment of the city, they aren't just collapsing some buildings.
That's the terrifying realization. If you rapidly dissolve the structural integrity of that city, you trigger a catastrophic, instantaneous release of 1,200 bar pressure.
You vent an ocean of liquid ammonia into the Pacific?
And you sever the coolant lines to the cold fusion arrays, guaranteeing uncontrolled quantum meltdowns at the bottom of the trench.
The sheer kinetic force and toxic release would be unparalleled in planetary history. It would certainly obliterate the abyssal command structure, but the secondary effects could permanently alter Earth's oceanic chemistry.
Wow.
The thermal release alone could boil the Pacific Ocean from the bottom up.
So here's the thought I want you to explore on your own. You're a strategist for the Human Alliance. You now understand the impossible architecture of Arlia Prime. You know its pressure gradients, you know its cold fusion heart.
It's a huge dilemma.
Can humanity actually destroy Arlia Prime without permanently destroying Earth in the process? Or is Project Tiamat just a suicide pact wearing the mask of a victory?